Hi guys. I am going to do this in a two-part set of videos. We're going to talk today about doing works cited entries, both on a works cited page and also in in-text citations using MLA format. We're specifically going to focus on how to do the demographics part of your paper and what that's supposed to look like, and we're going to talk a little bit about headings. So for this first part, for part one, we're going to focus just on the paper format and also on the works cited page. Part two, we'll focus more specifically on the in-text citations. In order to save time, you can see that I've already created a few parts of the paper. I have my correct heading: student, teacher, class, and date due. The heading is double spaced. I've made sure it's double, and I don't have any extra spaces between paragraphs. Then immediately following that, I hit center and I put in my title. I capitalized my title. I didn't do any funky fonts or bold or italicize or underline. It's just the same as the rest of my paper. And then I went ahead and jumped into my opening paragraph. We do need to add a section header, and I'll show you how to do that, a section heading, and I'll show you how to do that. But before we do that, we need to go in and add a header. So all of this is just on that first page. I'm going to go into the header, and if you can see that when I open header, this is below that line. That's where I want it to be. I'm making sure my font is Times New Roman 12, and when you start, it'll normally be here. We're going to hit enter twice to drop it off the margin because we don't want to print it right on the edge of the paper. Write a line, and then we can go insert, page number, and click on that. And then I'm going to put the last name of the person writing the paper. In this case, we're using my mock person, Sally Student. I'm going to put student 1 up in the upper right-hand corner. If your name is, for example, Jones, you're going to have Jones 1 or Thompson 1 up in that upper right-hand corner. Okay, so now I'm ready to actually start the paper. If you have any questions about that, there are notes over here on the side. I'm going to hit enter one time after my title. I'm going to go over to the left margin, and to do my first type of heading, I'm going to bold it, and I'm going to type in the title of my section. In this case, the title of my section is demographics. And then I can start my paragraph on the next line. Like I said, to save time, I've already created the first part of the paragraph. If you read my opening sentence, you'll notice that it is kind of general. The goal of it is to create kind of a claim or an introductory component to the demographic portion of my paper. I don't want to just throw out facts and statistics. That would be really boring and difficult to read. Instead, I want to kind of characterize what the city looks like in order to give you a feel for what that means. But from there, I go ahead and go into more specific data, concrete numbers that I have pulled from websites. To find them, I went to Google and I searched Denver demographic data, and I just picked a few sources that gave me some information I wanted to have. In this particular case, I'm going to start off just by talking about the diversity and the racial diversity of Denver to begin to understand who lives there. I used 4 sources for this portion of the paper. You can see, though, that they aren't cited at all anywhere in the paper. So as of right now, this paper is plagiarized. In order to create citations, the best place to start is with a works cited page. As I do this, I want to clarify that I usually create the works cited page while I am writing the sentences in the paper. But for the purposes of time and making this as simple as possible, I didn't do that here, so we're going to add the citations in. So I need to create a new page before I start my works cited. So I'm going to go to Insert, Break, Page Break, and then I can see up here that it's aligned, like it's already indenting my paragraph. I don't want that. I'm going to backspace it to keep it from indenting, and then I'm going to hit Center. And just like I would with the title of a paper, I'm not bolding, I'm not underlining, I'm not doing anything funky with my fonts. I'm just typing centered on the page, works cited. And I use works, not work, because I'm going to cite more than one work. So if I go into my first source is from the US Census Bureau, which should also be your first source for your demographics page. I'm going to look at what information is there. I'm looking for the title of the website as a whole. That's United States Census Bureau. The web page, which is Quick Facts Denver County, Colorado. I'm going to look for some copyright information. I don't really see a date here anywhere, but I do see that it belongs to the U.S. Department of Commerce, so I want to pay attention to that. I can estimate the date because it has data through July 1st, 2017, but I don't really want to use guesses when I'm talking about my dates. If it's not posted and it's not copyrighted, I'm not going to use that. So in order to make this as easy as possible, I'm going to copy the web address, and I'm going to go to Citation Machine, citationmachine.net, and I'm going to make sure I'm clicking on MLA, Modern Language Association. If I'm working in another class and I'm asked to use a different format, I can also select APA or Chicago style. But for this, I want you to use MLA. I'm going to paste my first website into the form and then pick it. And when I get here, I want to double check the things that they have. I can already see that there are some things I don't like. Like instead of calling this page Quick Facts, I want to call this Quick Facts Denver County, Colorado. So I'm going to add a colon here and change that. There wasn't an author, which is going to be common for these types of sources. I do like that they're calling the website U.S. Census Bureau, but it would be redundant to add Quick Facts Denver County, Colorado. So I'm going to get rid of that. I don't need to say that twice. For publisher sponsor, I'm going to use the U.S. Department of Commerce because that was the organization that was listed both here and at the bottom of the page here. The Department of Commerce conducts the census, so it makes perfect sense that that would be there. And I don't have a date. So now I'm going to go ahead and create my citation. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it onto the page. If you're working on an iPad, this is where you stop and go on to your next source because you can't really do anything about hanging indent on an iPad. I have not found a way to do it successfully. If you're working on a computer, the next step would be to take your source, highlight it, and up here at the top in this number line, we're going to grab this triangle and move it to 1/2 inch. That's going to move my entire paragraph over. And then I'm going to grab this button, this rectangle, which stands for first line indent, and I'm going to drag that back over to the margin. Okay? Now, the title of the web page looks right in quotation marks. The title of the website is italicized, double check. All of this looks right, but we're missing any kind of date whatsoever. What Owlet Purdue suggests is that if you don't have a date when something was updated, they suggest you include the date it was accessed. They said it's not required, but it is recommended. So I'm going to add that on to the end. Accessed 23rd of March, 2018. Okay. So now I'm done with that source and I'm ready to go on to my next one, which was this source here. As I look at it, I have very little information here. In fact, I might encourage you, if you're working with a source like this, to avoid sources like this. I can verify the data by double checking it with that census information I just looked at, which is the only reason why I'm going to go ahead and include it for now. But I want to point out to you here that I have a website, I have a web page, I don't have an organization, I don't have a copyright date, I don't have anything. I do have the sources it cited, but I can just go find that information at the U.S. Census Bureau. In my paper, I used it just for this piece of data. They did some math and told me how many people that means live per square mile, and I used that piece here. Other than that, we should avoid sources like this and really stick to ones that have more citation information. So I'm going to wait for it to load. Something went wrong here. There we go. Sometimes you have to click it twice. Okay, they're calling this page the census profile of Denver, Colorado. I think that works, but we need to capitalize that P. Your titles need to be capitalized. Census Reporter is the website. The web address is right, and that's all we could find. So we're going to go ahead and make our citation. Okay, and that needs to go, census profile needs to go above quick facts because we need to alphabetize it. So again, I'm going to add that access date. I'm going to double check my italics are right, my capitalization is right, everything looks good. I'm ready to move on to number 3. So for number 3, let's copy it into Citation Machine. And I can already see we have a problem. They're calling the web page, the article title, Twitter. It's not Twitter, it's demographics. So we're going to go ahead and pull this, and actually if I look down at the website, that's not right either, Metro Denver Demographics. This is actually really the title of the web page. So I'm going to copy that up here. One red flag, anytime you see this vertical line in your citation, something went wrong. You never need vertical lines like that. So I'm going to delete this, and what really the website title is this one here, Metro Denver Economic Development Corporation. If I look for copyright information down at the bottom, I see this little teeny tiny section, Metro Denver EDC. So I'm going to go ahead and include that as my publisher. It's probably redundant because Metro Denver EDC, Metro Denver Economic Development Corporation. But you know, since they own a copyright, I think it's a good idea to include it anyway. And I included the date. I'm going to add it here. It needs to go in the middle, Metro Denver Demographics. So I have CMQ. And then finally, I have this one here. Whoops, that did not copyright. Okay, now we're looking correct. I'll select it. Okay. The web page looks right, Denver population 2018. The website does not look right because it wouldn't be the same. The website is actually going to be this one here, World Population Review. For the publisher, if we look at the bottom, the owner of the copyright is actually the same, this World Population Review as well in 2018. Again, I don't need to write it twice. Technically, that's not required, but I'm always going to do it anyway if that organization owns the copyright because I think there's value in that. So we're going to go ahead and copy it. And because it's Denver, it's going to go right here. Okay, so for these last two, the two that I put in the middle, notice that I didn't add that access date at the end because since I have the copyright date here, I don't need the access date. So now that we're done with this piece, we're ready to start working on the in-text citations. So I'm going to stop this video here and do in-text citations in the next screencast.